5 sentences, that's all it took to end a 7-year marriage. And the strange part is, the end didn't come with shouting, tears, or slammed doors. It came quietly, in a kitchen that still smelled like fresh coffee, from the mouth of the woman I thought I knew better than anyone. Before we begin, do me a favor. If you've ever been blindsided by someone you trusted, if you've ever felt the ground shift under your feet without warning, hit subscribe, tap like, and leave a comment telling me whether you believe people reveal who they really are by what they say or by what they do. Now let me tell you how it started. Monday morning looked ordinary enough. I'm Michael Carter, 54 years old, senior operations manager at a logistics firm, the kind of man who believed stability was something you earned by showing up every day. I was standing at the counter, pouring coffee, when my wife Laura Carter walked in. Laura was already dressed for work, phone in hand, eyes locked on the screen like it held secrets she didn't want to share. Without looking up, she said it. I've been thinking, maybe we just settled for each other. No pause, no explanation, just dropped into the room like a fact about the weather. I froze mid-pour. Coffee spilled over the rim and onto the counter, but she didn't notice. I turned to her, genuinely confused, and asked, "What does that mean?" She finally looked up, shrugged, and said, "Nothing. Forget it." But words don't work that way. You don't toss them out and then take them back like a receipt. That sentence followed me all day, through meetings, emails, phone calls. Settled. 7 years of marriage reduced to a compromise she apparently regretted. It'd be why the time Tuesday came. I was paying closer attention. That evening we sat across from each other with takeout containers from a Thai place we used to love back when we still talked during dinner. She picked at her food, then looked straight at me and said, "I wonder what my life would look like if I'd made different choices." This time, there was no pretending it was nothing. Different choices how? I asked. She smiled. Not warmly, not kindly. Career. Where I live. Relationships. You know everything. She lingered on that last word. Relationships. That I didn't feel hurt. I felt something colder. I leaned back and said, "Well, it's never too late to make different choices." Her smile flickered, just for a second. Then she went back to eating like she hadn't just set a match on the table between us. Wednesday, I suggested something simple. A weekend visit to my parents. Richard and Susan Carter had been asking about us, wondering when they'd see Laura again. She didn't hesitate. I can't keep pretending to enjoy things I don't care about anymore. There it was again. Not just my parents, everything. Our routines, our history, the trips, the holidays, the shared jokes no one else understood. That I asked calmly, "How long have you been pretending?" She backtracked, of course. Said I misunderstood. Said she didn't mean it like that. But once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. By Thursday night, I realized something unsettling. This wasn't random. It was deliberate. Each comment sharpened, each one placed carefully, like she was testing how much pressure I could take before I cracked. We were brushing our teeth, standing side by side in the mirror, when she said, "Sometimes I look at couples who are actually happy and wonder what that feels like." Not we, not us, couples. Somewhere else. That I met her eyes in the mirror and simply said, "Yeah, I've wondered that too." She turned and stared at me, genuinely confused. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I didn't plead. Friday morning, we were back in the kitchen. Same coffee, same counter, same silence. She sighed and said, "I think we both know this isn't working anymore." I set my cup down and looked at her for a long moment. Then I smiled, not bitterly, not sadly. "You're right," I said. "It isn't." I kissed the top of her head, thanked her for the honesty, and walked out of the room. That's when I understood something crucial. Those 5 sentences weren't accidents. They were signals. And once you recognize the signal, you stop reacting and you start observing. That was the moment everything quietly changed. If this feels familiar to you, stay with me. Subscribe, like, and comment if you've ever realized too late that someone wasn't speaking randomly. They were revealing themselves. Once the noise stopped, clarity moved in. Not peace, clarity. There's a difference. Peace comes when things are resolved. Clarity comes when you finally understand you've been lied to for a long time. Why the following Monday, I wasn't reacting anymore. I was watching, quietly, carefully, the way you observe traffic after a near miss, suddenly aware of patterns you ignored for years. Laura had always been casual with her phone, left it on the counter, asked me to read texts while she drove. That changed overnight. Now it never left her hand. Screen down. Notifications silenced. A new password she typed with urgency, shoulders slightly turned away from me like I was a stranger in my own house. Tuesday evening, during dinner, her phone buzzed. She reached for it so fast she knocked over her water glass. Laughed it off, said it was work. I didn't question it. I nodded and kept eating. That seemed to bother her more than suspicion ever would have. The next morning, her phone rang while she was in the shower. Unknown number. It stopped before voicemail. When she came out and saw the missed call, the color drained from her face, just briefly. Spam, she said too quickly, then took the phone back into the bathroom. When she returned, I was already dressed, tying my shoes. Everything okay? I asked casual. Yeah. Presentation today, she replied. What presentation? I asked. She froze. Recovered. The quarterly review. She didn't have one scheduled. I knew that. She knew that. I smiled and wished her luck. Relief washed over her face, and that's when I knew lies weren't slipping out accidentally. They were spilling because she was juggling too many. By midweek, the pattern solidified. Calls taken in private. Texting marathons followed by sudden cheerfulness, then unexplained tension. She'd hum while folding laundry, then snap over nothing 10 minutes later. Excitement followed by guilt. Guilt followed by irritation. It was all there once I stopped trying to explain it away. Thursday night, she was on the couch, thumbs flying across her screen. I sat down beside her, close enough to read it if I wanted. She tilted the phone away instantly. Don't let me interrupt, I said. You look busy. It's nothing important, she said, hands trembling just slightly. Must be fascinating, I replied. You've been at it a while. She studied my face, trying to decide if I knew something. That uncertainty gnawed at her. Finally, she said it was an old friend from college. That's nice, I said. Reconnecting is healthy. The irony hit her like a slap. She stared at the TV, jaw tight. Friday morning, she said, we should talk. About what? I asked, still reading the paper. Us. About where this is going. I folded the paper and gave her my full attention. Where is it going? Our marriage, she said slowly. We've been having problems. Have we? I asked honestly. That wasn't the answer she wanted. She expected agreement, maybe even guilt. Instead, she was forced to define the problem. We barely talk anymore, she said. We're talking now. That's not what I mean. Then explain what you mean. Her frustration rose. It feels like we're not connected. How? I asked. We live together, eat together, sleep in the same bed. Emotionally, she snapped at. I nodded. And whose fault do you think that is? The silence stretched. She wasn't ready to assign blame out loud. It's not about fault, she said defensively, isn't it? I replied calmly. Because if someone checked out first, that person would know why. Her face went pale. She looked at me like she was seeing me clearly for the first time and realizing I wasn't where she left me. That weekend, while she was out with friends, I made a few quiet calls. Not confrontational ones, curious ones. My brother Daniel, her sister Melissa, a mutual friend, Tom Reynolds. What I heard didn't shock me. It confirmed what my instincts already knew. Questions about divorce asked casually. Lunches with a man from her gym. Interest in my travel schedule. She wasn't drifting. She was preparing. Sunday night, as she brushed her teeth, she asked, do you ever think about what would happen if we weren't together anymore? Yes, I said. She stopped brushing. You do? Sometimes, I answered. Don't you? She nodded, unsettled. I thought you'd be more upset. I met her eyes in the mirror. Why would I be upset about something that might be better for both of us? The silence that followed was loud. That night, she lay awake beside me. I could feel it. The tension, the fear, the realization that something had shifted and she no longer controlled it. And for the first time in years, I slept soundly. Tuesday afternoon was supposed to be routine. I was meant to be in Denver until Thursday for a client audit, but the trip was canceled at the last minute. No drama, no warning, just a short email from my assistant, and suddenly, I was free that I didn't call Laura. I don't know why at first. Maybe instinct. Maybe curiosity. I told myself I'd surprise her, like couples do when things are still normal. That lie lasted until I pulled into our driveway that a silver Audi was parked across the street. Clean. Expensive. Engine still warm. It didn't belong to any neighbor I knew. I sat there longer than necessary, hands on the steering wheel, listening to the quiet hum of my own thoughts. My pulse was steady. That surprised me. Inside the house, it was too quiet, but not empty. Voices floated down from upstairs. Low. Familiar. Intimate. The kind of voices that don't exist between friends catching up that I didn't rush. I didn't shout. I did what I'd learned to do over the past week. I paid attention. I took out my phone and started recording as I climbed the stairs slowly, each step deliberate. The closer I got, the clearer it became. Laura's voice was excited, careless. Another man's voice answered her, confident and relaxed, like he belonged there. He won't be back until Thursday, she said. We've got time. What about after? The man asked. When are you going to tell him? Soon, she replied. I've been laying the groundwork. He's already questioning things. I just need him to be the one to say it first. I stopped moving. He's too proud to stay if he thinks he's not wanted, she continued. Once he brings up divorce, I can play the reluctant one. Everyone will think I tried. The man laughed softly. Smart. I know, she said. There it was. Not suspicion, not interpretation. Strategy that I didn't go any further. I had enough. I went back downstairs, sat at my desk, and waited. An hour later, I heard footsteps, laughter, a door closing. The Audi pulled away. The house returned to silence. When Laura came downstairs, freshly showered, she looked startled to see me. You're home early. Trip got canceled, I said easily. Thought I'd surprise you. How long have you been here? She asked. Just walked in. I lied smoothly. She studied my face, searching for cracks. Finding none, she nodded. I was upstairs resting. Must have been refreshing, I said. You look energized. She flinched, just barely. The next few days were fascinating. She couldn't decide whether to charm me or provoke me. When she criticized, I agreed. When she flirted, I declined politely. It threw her completely off balance. Thursday night, she suggested couples therapy. I almost laughed. Why? I asked. Because I love you, she said, reaching for my hand. That I looked down at her fingers and felt nothing. What does love mean to you? I asked. She hesitated. Caring about someone's happiness. Whose? I asked calmly. Yours or mine? She pulled her hand back. I think you've already checked out, I continued. You're just waiting for the right moment. That's not fair, she whispered. Then be honest, I said. Why the games? She denied it, of course. But denial sounds weak when the truth has already been spoken out loud. That night, she barely slept. Friday morning, while she showered, I made 3 calls. Mark Sullivan, my attorney. Greg Holloway, my accountant. And Nathan Brooks, a private investigator recommended by a colleague. By the time Laura came downstairs, I was reading the paper, calm as ever. Sleep okay? I asked. She nodded stiffly. Good, I said. Clarity does that. She didn't respond, and neither did I explain, because some conversations are better had when every piece is already in place. The strangest thing about knowing the truth is how ordinary everything still looks. The sun comes up, coffee brews, bills wait to be paid, and yet, underneath all of it, the foundation has cracked. By Monday, Laura was unraveling. Not dramatically, subtly. Too much laughter at the wrong moments. Sudden tenderness that felt rehearsed. Irritation when I didn't respond the way she expected. She kept testing invisible lines, trying to find where I stood, and every time she reached out, she found only calm. That calm terrified her. Tuesday evening, she cooked my favorite meal. Steak, perfectly done. The good plates. A candle on the table, like it was an anniversary instead of a performance. I've been thinking, she said carefully. About us. I nodded, chewing slowly. I think we can fix this, she continued. Counseling. A trip somewhere. A reset. Can we? I asked. Hope flashed across her face. Yes, I really believe that. I set my fork down, then explained something to me. She stiffened. What? What changed? I asked. Because a few weeks ago, you were talking about settling. About different lives. About not pretending anymore. So what suddenly makes this worth fixing? Her mouth opened. Closed. She searched for the right answer and came up empty. I was just confused, she said finally. No, I replied gently. You were intentional. Her eyes widened. That's not true, isn't it? I asked. Because confusion doesn't follow patterns. Confusion doesn't rehearse conversations or manage narratives. Her breathing quickened. You're imagining things. I leaned back in my chair. Am I? She stood up abruptly, pacing. You're acting different. Distant. Cold. I'm acting observant, I said. Wednesday, Nathan Brooks called. His voice was calm, professional. He didn't speculate. He confirmed. Photos. Dates. A familiar silver Audi. A man named Jason Miller. A personal trainer. Recently divorced. Familiar pattern. I thanked him and hung up. That evening, Laura tried a different approach. Vulnerability. I feel like I'm losing you, she said quietly. You lost me when you stopped respecting me. I replied. She flinched like she'd been slapped. Thursday morning, she said, maybe we should talk to someone. A professional. I agree, I said. Relief washed over her, until I added, I already have. Her face drained of color. Who? Several people, I said evenly. That night, she barely ate, barely spoke. Fear replaced confidence, and fear is loud even when it's silent. Friday morning, I woke up before dawn. The house felt different, not tense. Final. While Laura showered, I placed a thick envelope on the kitchen counter. Inside it, documents, copies, facts, not explanations. Evidence doesn't need justification. When she came downstairs, towel around her shoulders, she stopped cold. What's that? She asked. Information, I said. Her hands shook as she picked it up. She didn't open it yet. She looked at me instead. Are you trying to scare me? She asked. No, I said calmly. I'm done pretending. Her voice cracked. We can still fix this. I met her eyes. You can't fix what you deliberately broke. She sank into a chair, finally realizing something fundamental had changed. I wasn't chasing answers anymore. I wasn't asking for truth that I already had it. And for the first time since this began, Laura understood she wasn't steering the outcome. She was reacting to it. I poured myself coffee, took a sip, and said nothing more. Some silence is louder than any argument. Friday morning felt oddly clean, like the air after a storm you didn't hear coming. I woke up clear-headed, not angry, not vengeful, just finished. There's a moment in every long fight when you realize you're no longer fighting to win, you're fighting to end it. That was my moment. Laura moved through the house carefully, like someone walking on ice they know is thin. She tried small talk. I responded politely. She asked if we could just have one honest conversation. I told her we already had. She just hadn't liked her own answers. By mid-morning, the doorbell rang. She wasn't expecting company. I was. When I opened the door, Mark Sullivan stood there, briefcase in hand, calm and professional. Laura looked from him to me, confusion turning to fear. What's going on? She asked. Mark stepped inside, nodded politely. Good morning. I'm here on Michael's behalf. The words hit her harder than shouting ever could. I gestured toward the kitchen table. Sit down. She didn't want to. She did anyway. Mark placed the folder in front of her. Divorce filing. Financial disclosures. A timeline laid out with quiet precision. No accusations. No dramatics. Just facts. She flipped through the pages with trembling hands. You can't do this. I already did, I said. Her voice rose. After everything we've been through? Yes, I replied evenly. Because of everything we've been through. She tried tears. They didn't land. She tried anger. It bounced off. Finally, she tried desperation. I made mistakes, she whispered. Doesn't everyone? Mistakes are accidental, I said. Planning is intentional. She stared at me like I was someone new. Maybe I was. Mark stood. My office will be in touch. Please don't contact Michael directly. When the door closed behind him, the house went silent. Laura looked around like she expected something else to happen. A reversal. A miracle. None came up by Sunday evening. She was packing. Not angrily. Quietly. Folding clothes like she was already somewhere else. At the door, she turned and said, I never thought you'd be capable of this. I nodded. Neither did I. Weeks passed. Then months. The divorce finalized cleanly. No chaos. No public scenes. Just consequences delivered without cruelty. The house became peaceful again. One evening, a neighbor, Karen Lewis, recently divorced herself, knocked with a casserole and a kind smile. We talked, laughed. No tension, no games. Later, my phone rang. Unknown number. I know you know it's me, Laura said. I do, I replied. I lost everything, she said. My job, friends. I didn't mean for it to end like this. You didn't mean for it to end for you. I corrected gently. There was silence on the line. I love you, she said. No, I replied calmly. You love what I provided. There's a difference. I hung up and blocked the number. 6 months later, my life was quieter, steadier, honest. I wasn't bitter. I was better. Those 5 sentences didn't ruin my life. They revealed it. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever had to choose self-respect over comfort, subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Tell me, what was the moment you stopped ignoring the truth? I'll see you in the next story.